Hi guys, I'm Andrea Feccomandi, the creator of Bibisco, and in this video I would like to talk about how to create a novel that works. Let's start by introducing the principle of suspension of disbelief. The principle was introduced by the English poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge in the 14th chapter of his Biographia Literaria, published in the 1817. The principle of suspension of disbelief is a tacit agreement between the reader and the writer, in which the reader agrees to suspend his own critical sense and trust the writer's words, while being perfectly aware that it's fiction. During the reading, the reader doesn't ask himself questions and enjoys the story. As soon as he closes the book or he turns off his e-reader, the magic stops and the reader returns to reality. The principle of suspension of disbelief is, in other words, a pact of trust between the reader and the writer, and the writer shall act to deserve the trust, otherwise the reader will stop the reading of the story. How will the writer prove himself worthy of the trust of his reader? It's quite simple. The writer must tell a believable story. It is important to underline that the principle of suspension of disbelief is valid for all kinds of novels: romance novels, fantasy novels, thriller novels, adventure novels, even if, of course, for stories set in fantastic worlds or with non-human characters, the challenge for the writer will be greater. However, a story set in the real world is not necessarily believable, while there are absolutely believable fantasy novels, such as The Lord of the Rings. So, how can we create a believable story? Since every story starts from the conflict of the characters, a believable story must start from believable characters. Characters that are completely good or completely evil are stereotypes and therefore are not believable. Characters are believable when you can understand the complexity of their personality, regardless of whether they are human or not. In The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, Dorothy's friends are absolutely believable, even if they are a scarecrow, a tin woodman, and a coward lion. How can we create believable characters? The only way is to know everything about them: physical aspect, behavior, psychology, sociology, ideas, passions, their life before the beginning of the novel. It doesn't matter if in our novel will be shown even one day of the life of our characters. The way they will live that day, every single gesture will be the result of their way of being and experiences lived until the day before. Bibisco puts the characters at the center of the creation of the novel and proposes an unusual method to know them: an interview. Every aspect to know about a character has a dedicated card, and for each aspect a series of questions. The users of Bibisco with which I happen to speak during the workshops, or who sent me emails or messages through social networks, told me that question after question their characters became real, took shape. Through the questions, the characters told their story, and they had to do nothing but listen to them and write down what they said. They told me that some questions were easy to answer. For example, if we imagine the story of a policeman facing the injustice perpetrated by a dangerous group of criminals, it's easy to answer the question, is he brave? Of course, yes. Much more difficult to answer the question, is he envious? But it's precisely these difficult questions that make our character believable, because they bring out the complexity of his personality. Our policeman could therefore be envious of his elder brother, and he could have enlisted just because his brother was a policeman valued by the whole family, and in particular by his father. Actually, our main character hates being a policeman and wants to live a different life. Here is the conflict, the driving force of the novel. So, a great way to respect the principle of suspension of disbelief and to write a story that works is to create believable characters. And we can create believable characters by knowing all of them through Bibisco interviews. Okay, that's it for today, guys. Have a great day and happy writing with Bibisco.